as Lent approaches, this is a presentation that can be used on Ash Wednesday or on the first Sunday of Lent. I've chosen to use this. It's an introduction to Lent as a whole, a time to pray and fast and give. The readings are actually used on Ash Wednesday, but they are very appropriate for the children's liturgy or the Sunday school idea. Then we have the booklet, which outlines how to conduct the session. And the doctrinal point is this. There are 3 traditional pillars of Lent, and they are prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. And through the 3 pillars of Lent, we journey to develop a closer relationship with God. And the 40 days of Lent should be filled with reflection, service, and prayer. During Lent, we're invited to pray, fast, and to give alms. So that's a little bit of a background for you as a catechist. So there are some words to understand before we read this gospel, children. The word alms, and these are things that are freely given to those who are in need. The word prayer, which you're already familiar with, but it's about speaking with God or with any other person in heaven. It could even include our angels. Fasting is about not eating or drinking something, usually, but it can also mean going without something that we like, that's not necessarily food or drink. Another word is hypocrite, and that's a person who pretends to have virtues that he or she does not really have. That's a hypocrite. The synagogue, and the synagogue is the place of prayer for the Jews. There were many synagogues around in Israel at the time of Jesus, and there still are many synagogues around the world. As Lent begins, on Ash Wednesday, we hear a reading at Mass, and we hear about 3 things that can help us prepare for Easter. These 3 things we try to do especially well and in new ways in Lent, so as to live as Jesus taught us. Let's listen to what Jesus said. The first part of the reading that I'm going to read today, Jesus speaks about prayer. Jesus said, "Whenever you pray, do not be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and at the street corners, so that they may be seen by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward. But whenever you pray, go into your room, shut the door, and pray to your Father who is in secret. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you." I wonder, here are some things for us to think about. I wonder why Jesus wanted us to pray in that secret way. I wonder what kind of quiet places we can find to pray in. I wonder why Jesus wanted us to pray in a quiet place. I wonder who hears and sees me as I pray. We can think about how we can pray during Lent. You could find a place at home, a little space that's quiet, and perhaps there you can place 3 containers. I've got 3 containers here. The first one is labelled prayer. The second one is labelled fasting. And the third one is labelled almsgiving. You can add something to one of these accordingly. At the moment we'll think about prayer first, but supposing you're thinking about praying, and you can have a number of items that you can place in each one of these jars. So for example, you might have some buttons that are kind of colourful. There's a couple here. Or butterflies. Or you might have some fake precious stones that can be quite effective too. Or alternatively, you might have some little pebbles. And here are some samples of little pebbles and small stones that could be used for this. So the idea is that when you say a special prayer, you can place one of the items in the prayer bowl. And it's kind of a visual for you that you've done that. And you made a secret prayer to Jesus, to God the Father, or God the Holy Spirit, or Mary, or one of the saints in heaven. Now, in another part of the reading, Jesus speaks about fasting in a pretty similar way. Let's hear what he says. Whenever you fast, do not look dismal like the hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces so as to show others that they're fasting. Truly, I say to you, they've received their reward. But when you fast, put oil on your head and wash your face so that your fasting may be seen not by others, but by your Father who is in secret. And your Father who is in secret will reward you. So I wonder what Jesus is meaning here when he says, when you fast, don't look dismal. Or I wonder why it's important not to look dismal. And a very important thing to think about is what kinds of things that we can fast from in Lent. And again, a way we can live this in Lent. So there's the second container, which is labelled fast. And you could add your chosen item into that little container when you've done something that's hard and you're making it a gift to Jesus. And it's a way of preparing our hearts again for Holy Week and Easter, a way of joining ourselves to Jesus. And in the same passage, Jesus also spoke about giving alms. And this is what he said. Whenever you give alms, do not sound a trumpet before you, as hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, so that they may be praised by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward. But when you give alms, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your alms may be done in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. I wonder what might Jesus mean when he says, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. And I wonder how we can really give to people in need and what we can give. And I wonder who sees us when we give things in a very secret way. And then for this, again, there's a third container labelled, what have we labelled this? Alms giving. And you can add a button, if that's the buttons that you're using, when you have done a little thing, or been kind to someone who's in need. And the other thing you can do as well, actually, is when you've noticed somebody else doing a good deed, giving some kind of alms of the heart or alms of money or materials, that you can actually put another button in for them too, just because you've seen that. And there are other things you can think about as well, perhaps contributing to the Lenten collections which happen around Lent in the parish or in the school, or donating some things to those in need. So there are a few ideas for the teachers, the catechists to use, and of course you'll find yourself presenting it in a way that you're comfortable with, and you might be able to set up a little prayer corner or have a prayer corner ready set up in your space so that you can show people what a small quiet space might look like in the home.